The courtroom smelled of lemon polish and old fear, the kind that settles into oak benches after decades of broken promises and broken people. Courtroom 12B, third floor of the County Superior Court, was packed tighter than anyone had expected for a simple divorce settlement. Reporters lined the back row, sensing blood in the water. Sophia Langston sat on the witness stand at exactly 34 weeks and 3 days pregnant, her navy maternity dress chosen because it was the only thing that still fit and because it made her feel like armor. One hand rested on the curve of her belly where her daughter pressed a foot against her ribs as if urging her on. The other hand gripped the wooden rail so hard the grain left indentations in her palm. Across the aisle, Brooke Sinclair looked like she'd stepped off a magazine cover that had been sharpened into a weapon. 29 years old, glossy raven black hair falling in a perfect sheet past her shoulders, cheekbones that could slice paper, and ice blue eyes that never blinked unless it served her. She wore a pristine white blazer over a silk camisole, legs crossed, one Louboutin heel swinging like a metronome counting down someone else's life. Cameron Langston, 36, sat beside his attorney in a charcoal suit that used to fit him better, eyes fixed on the table in front of him as though the grain of the wood might offer absolution. This hearing was supposed to be a formality. Finalize the division of assets, sign the papers, let Sophia walk away with enough to raise her child without constantly looking over her shoulder. But Brooke had insisted on a full trial. Let the judge see what a greedy little schoolteacher she is, she had told Cameron the night before, loud enough for the doorman to hear. Now Brooke leaned back in the defendant's chair like a queen on a throne and waited for her moment. Sophia's attorney, a kind-eyed woman named Marisol Vega who had taken the case pro bono after reading the texts Brooke sent Cameron, asked the routine questions: years married, contributions to the marriage, financial support during Cameron's startup years when Sophia worked 2 jobs so he could code in their studio apartment until 4 a.m. Sophia answered quietly, steadily, refusing to let her voice shake even when Brooke rolled her eyes theatrically. Then Brooke's attorney stood. "Mrs. Langston, isn't it true that you became pregnant deliberately, knowing my client had made her relationship with Mr. Langston clear? Isn't this child simply a tactic to extract more money than you're entitled to?" Marisol objected. Overruled. Sophia opened her mouth to answer, but Brooke cut in, voice loud and syrupy, aimed at the gallery as much as the bench. "Let's be honest, Your Honor. She trapped him. Look at her frumpy cardigan under that dress, discount shoes, hair she clearly cut herself." Cameron upgraded the second he realized he could have a woman who actually takes care of herself. "Some of us don't let pregnancy be an excuse to let go." The gallery gasped. A reporter in the back row started typing so fast his laptop sounded like hail on a tin roof. Sophia felt every eye in the room slide over her body like hands. She had gained 42 pounds, her ankles were swollen, her wedding ring no longer fit, and her hair had been trimmed with kitchen scissors because the salon made her cry with the smell of Cameron's cologne on other men. She felt suddenly, violently exposed. Cameron still wouldn't look at her. Judge Eleanor Ramirez had been on the bench for 29 years. 62 years old, silver-streaked black hair pulled into a severe bun, dark eyes that had watched murderers cry and widows beg, she removed her glasses with the slowness of someone defusing a bomb. The room quieted the way the ocean pulls back before a tsunami. "Miss Sinclair," she said, voice perfectly level, "you've made several unsolicited comments about Mrs. Langston's appearance, motives, and choices. I'm going to give you an opportunity to clarify your position. One question." Brooke lifted her chin, scenting victory. "Anything, Your Honor." Judge Ramirez leaned forward, elbows on the bench, fingers steepled. "According to the medical records subpoenaed by Mrs. Langston's counsel records you moved to seal. Motion denied. You underwent an emergency hysterectomy at age 25 after a ruptured ectopic pregnancy. The procedure rendered you permanently infertile. Yet between November of last year and February of this year, you sent Mr. Langston over 400 text messages claiming to be pregnant with his child, complete with ultrasound images later proven to be downloaded from a stock photo site, and threatened to terminate the pregnancy unless he left his wife immediately. So I will ask you once, on the record, under oath, when exactly did you discover you were infertile?" The silence that followed was so complete Sophia could hear her daughter's heartbeat through the monitor clipped to her dress. Brooke's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Her perfect red lipstick looked suddenly garish, like a wound. The heel that had been swinging stopped midair. Cameron's head snapped up. For the first time in months he looked at Brooke, really looked, and the color drained from his face so fast Sophia thought he might faint. That's private medical information, Brooke stammered. Objection. Her attorney practically shouted, face slick with sweat. Overruled, Judge Ramirez said without glancing at him. The witness waived privacy when she mocked a pregnant woman's body and accused her of entrapment in open court. Answer the question, Miss Sinclair. Brooke's hands fluttered to her stomach, an involuntary gesture, as if she could still pretend there was something there. Her eyes filled with tears, real ones, shocking in their ugliness. I was 25, she whispered. The doctor said there was too much damage. I thought if I could just make him choose me. Cameron made a sound like a dying animal and put his head in his hands. Judge Ramirez turned to Sophia, and for the first time her voice softened. Mrs. Langston, you may step down. Sophia did, legs trembling so badly the bailiff caught her elbow. She felt the room tilt, then right itself. She wasn't the one on trial after all. The judge wasn't finished. Mr. Langston, stand. Cameron rose like a man in a dream. You will transfer 50% of all marital assets, including the full value of Langston Digital, the company your wife helped you build while working double shifts so you could afford server space, into Mrs. Langston's name by end of business tomorrow. You will establish an irrevocable trust for the minor child in the amount of $2 million, seated today. Miss Sinclair, you will pay Mrs. Langston's legal fees in their entirety plus an additional $100,000 for pain and suffering. I am also forwarding the complete record, including the falsified ultrasound images and threats of termination, to the district attorney for review of potential felony charges including fraud, coercion, and harassment. She banged the gavel once, the sound sharp as a gunshot. Court is adjourned. Bailiff, please escort Miss Sinclair through the side exit. The press is at the front doors. Brooke was half carried out, sobbing so hard her mascara ran black down her white blazer. Cameron tried to follow Sophia into the hallway, calling her name like it still belonged to him. She kept walking. Outside, the January air hit her like cold water. Marisol caught up, eyes shining. You, okay. Sophia looked down at her belly, felt another solid kick, and laughed, an actual laugh that startled a pigeon into flight. I'm free, she said, and it felt like the truest thing she'd ever spoken. The next weeks were a blur of paperwork and quiet triumph. Cameron signed everything without a fight. The look on his face when the judge asked the question had gutted whatever was left of him. Brooke's name vanished from social media. Rumors said she'd left the country the day the DA opened the investigation. Sophia's water broke on a Wednesday morning in the middle of reading The Very Hungry Caterpillar to her third graders. By lunchtime she was holding a perfect 7-pound girl with Cameron's dark hair and her own hazel eyes. She named her Eleanor Ramirez Langston, Ellie for short, after the judge who had handed her justice with one perfectly aimed question. Cameron showed up at the hospital with a teddy bear the size of a toddler and a cashier's check. Sophia's brother Daniel, 6'4" and unimpressed, met him at the nursery window. Visitation when Ellie asks, Daniel said. She's 0. Try again in about 10 years. Cameron left the bear and the check and never came back. 5 years later, Sophia's cottage smelled like crayons and cinnamon rolls every morning. Ellie, now 5, had her father's stubborn cowlick and her mother's fearless heart. They painted together at a sun-drenched table, Ellie's tiny fingers smeared with cerulean and gold while Sophia worked on the children's books that had started as bedtime stories and were now on shelves in 20 countries. On the wall above their easels hung a framed copy of Judge Ramirez's final order. Sophia had highlighted one line in gold marker. The court finds that truth, once spoken aloud, has a way of dismantling even the most carefully constructed lies. Ellie called it, Mommy's magic paper. Some mornings, when the light was soft and the world felt gentle, Sophia would stand at the window watching her daughter chase bubbles in the garden and remember the day she sat in that witness stand feeling small and broken. Then she would touch the tiny scar on her wrist where she had gripped the rail too hard, smile, and go back to painting. She never needed perfect vision to see what mattered. Some victories are loud. Gavels, headlines, multi-million-dollar judgments. Some are quiet. A little girl's laughter, a mother's steady heartbeat, the absolute certainty that no one will ever again get to define your worth by how well you keep a man who never deserved you. Sophia Langston walked into that courtroom carrying 8 pounds of miracle and walked out carrying something infinitely heavier and far more precious, the rest of her life, entirely her own. And every time Ellie asked why Mommy's eyes got shiny when they read the last page of their favorite book, the one about a brave queen who defeats a dragon with one true question, Sophia would kiss her forehead and whisper the same answer. Because the truth always wins, baby. It just sometimes needs the right person to ask it out loud.